Alright guys, what's up? So I promised everybody that I would do an overview for this eclipse that's happening today, since it's 12:18 a.m. the 8th. It'll be happening later into the evening tonight, so it'll go a little bit past midnight for the partial eclipse. Alright, what's up guys? I didn't like all my blabbering last night, so if you notice that there's daylight behind me now, and a minute ago I said it was midnight, I decided to sleep on it and realized that I hated everything I was saying. I didn't hate everything I was saying. I just realized that nobody's going to be excited about listening to me for 60 minutes about how amazing the evidence is with eclipses. And I'm just going to try to keep it short and sweet because now I'm going to go into the actual line here. Oh, this is just the map module. You can see where all the planets are at. Alright. Solar eclipses are substantially shorter, and also why they can only be seen in certain areas of the world. That being said, the solar eclipse essentially will only be affecting the areas in which it can be seen. So, for example, last year, on the 20th of March, 2015, another astrologer that's on YouTube, Steve Jed, was bragging about how he could see the solar eclipse exactly perfect over where he lives. And he lives somewhere in England. Obviously, there's been this huge issue, not only with the political system over there, but also, I mean, I'm talking about like the traditional political system and also the Sharia law that's pushing over there as well. So, and I also saw some news reports recently that they're now banning certain things in certain countries over in Europe. I saw something today about how British history has now been replaced with Islamic history in all public schools in Britain. So, the Saturn-Neptune square would essentially be a couple of different things with the duality of its nature. It would be some sort of flooding or toxicity or basically conserving on natural resources, more or less. And then in the metaphysical sense, it would be some sort of invasion, flooding, or disease. So obviously we have the invasion going on, and then the flooding of refugees going on, and then the bring in disease. Alright, so I'm going to continue on. I apologize that I no longer have the map on there. Just have to clip it in or something, because Manicam is pissing me the fuck off. So anyway, as I was saying, after, obviously, the invasion and the flooding through Eastern Europe into the Middle Eastern area, then we look at where the line continues. So basically this next eclipse that's happening today is just going to pick up where that one left off. So it'll be over eastern China and eastern, like western Russia, India, and it goes through Indonesia, and it goes up over the right underneath the Filipino islands, and it's going to be right above Australia, and then that New Guinea and New Zealand area, and it continues to go up into the Pacific Ocean and barely scraping over Hawaiian Islands, and then it's going to end pretty much at the Cascadia Fault on the west coast of the United States. And so the different generational aspects that are going to go on, the Uranus, obviously they have the Uranus-Pluto square going on, which that essentially is revolt, revolution, and so we're going to have countries continuing to topple over each other, or countries collapsing, either economically, politically, whatever, or being taken over by the invasion. So Neptune square Saturn is going to have its strongest alignment in, I think it might be June, maybe July, maybe May, don't quote me. I have it written down, I just can't remember everything. So when last year Saturn-Neptune square happened to flood over the European continent, and then primarily that obviously had to do with the metaphorical duality of Neptune square Saturn, the fact that this line is, the majority of it is over a large body of water, the ocean, it wouldn't pertain to as many people per se. So we're going to be looking at the physiological or environmental aspects of this. So Neptune square Saturn, as I said before, would be toxic oceans, or any kind of natural disasters. So I would assume that tsunamis are going to happen or earthquakes are going to happen within that line there. So when I zoom in on here, we have Sumatra, Indonesia, and it can be anything above or below. So we have the part of the Filipino Islands. What is this? That's Hong Kong, Thailand. So Thailand, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then also Papua New Guinea and Samoan Islands, probably parts of Western Australia, and then Hawaii, obviously, and then you also have to take into account anything in the hemispheres north or south of it could potentially be affected to a lesser extent. So that would be India, China, Mongolia, Eastern Russia, Alaska, like I said, northern parts of the Australian continent, Japan, and then we also have to deal with Hawaii, and I would say because the Cascadia Falls is right there by Alaska, that might be impacted as well. Pluto in Capricorn rules volcanoes, and it rules earthquakes. So the Cascadia Fault's right there. I don't know if it's necessarily going to go off. I think there's probably going to be a couple small earthquakes along the west coast of the United States. And there potentially could be volcanoes that go off in Hawaii. And as there has been a theme throughout 2006, 2009, and then maybe 2011 or something like that, there has been massive amounts of earthquakes or earthquakes one after another, and then causing tsunamis within the Asian Pacific Island area, and specifically Tokyo, and like Nepal I think had one last year, and it's just been really ravaged with all kinds of earthquakes. So that would be a continuous theme here, and so my primary concern would be the toxicity of natural resources, so something to do with the ocean specifically. And since we already know that in previous years with one of the eclipses in Japan, the Fukushima plant was damaged and destroyed from earthquake and tsunami, and then it started to pour radiation into the ocean. Well, it turns out that Japan has recently either been called out or admitted to intentionally dumping more radioactive chemicals into the ocean because the plant was leaking or having some sort of structural issues. So the radiation levels that are in the ocean are substantially high to where people should be all warned that they shouldn't be eating seafood anymore. So, seeing as I don't know necessarily the economic status per se of a lot of those islands right there, but them being islands, their natural resources for food is going to be seafood or things from the ocean. And so I would assume that there's going to be a lot of death and disease with that specifically. Obviously there's going to be a lot of diseases in the ocean too, aka with the wildlife, because of the radiation. We've been seeing signs of that with different kinds of sea life, like beaching up on the coasts of the west coast of the United States, and people saying that they're seeing wildlife acting irregular. And so that will be a continuation of that, and then also take into account too every time that there's storms, because we're going through this, we're actually shifting into a mini ice age. So when everybody thought we were going into global warming, essentially for when somebody's transitioning from something, regardless of what it is, if it's a person, place, event or whatever, growing pains is a thing. Growing pains is not a pleasurable thing, and it's called pains for a reason. There's going to be some painful transition. So in order for us to ascend from the Piscean age and into the age of Aquarius, we're going to have to eliminate things that are associated with the Piscean age. And what all those things are will be determined. But we have to demolish the old to bring the new. So, in as messed up as an idea as this is, there are too many people on this planet. First off, there's not enough resources, and the Earth is just doing what it normally does. It needs to purge so it can grow new, and so it's purging, and in the process, it's going to be shifting its climate, and the side effect of it shifting its climate because of the tilt axis with the cardinal axis, that will then be the fixed axis in the age of Aquarius. There has to be some purging and annihilation, and unfortunately that's what's going to happen here. So I would assume that the majority of those people are likely going to come down with stomach cancer or die. And I say that too because there are studies that are being done that say that the radiation toxicity level is so high in the ocean right now that eating one meal that is contaminated increases your chances of getting leukemia or stomach cancer by 60-something%. I know the sushi deals are tempting right now, but seriously. So that being said, I think that that's going to be the majority of what we're going to worry about. Other than that, the other ones that were of major concern are the invasion and terrorism. So when I look at invasion, I don't necessarily, at this point in time, because Russia was predominantly involved in the previous eclipse and to this one, Russia's going to be doing a lot of the invasion, but obviously there'll be just as much Islamic invasion as there has been. And yeah, so the flooding thing, metaphorically and physiologically, is going to be the highlight of this eclipse here. And also, remember all those plane flights that have disappeared or crashed or whatever? If you're going anywhere, you know, from India to the west coast of the United States, plan your trip carefully. Don't go if you don't have to. Unless you want to be another Malaysian airplane.